on the people who've been assaulted, abused, the kids, the women. It's so many casualties here that I stand for every last one of them, and I cannot back down. I will never back down. This whole thing, from Weinstein to all what's happening in Hollywood, is about an abuse of power. And let me tell you, the people I'm going against are very big, very powerful, but the whole thing is David versus Goliath. And guess who won that one? Sexual assault is a crime. It is a crime. You cannot violate a person's personal boundary. This past year, we have seen powerful men in Hollywood and elsewhere finally held accountable for harassment and assault. I reached my hand out and he takes his right hand and under mine and immediately squeezes, grabs my genitals and I jump back like, hey, whoa.
Toxic atmosphere?
First of all, I can't speak for sexism because I'm not a woman, but I can't speak on behalf of any racism comments. That was never my experience on America's Got Talent. And I would literally ask myself, was like, why doesn't she believe me? When the question I should have been asking is, why am I lying? You know, and I had blamed her for not believing me. That's how deep it goes. And I'm gonna tell you.
Terry Crews, NFL player turned Hollywood icon, was known for his muscles and charm. But behind the scenes, he faced addiction, trauma, and spiritual emptiness. Now, armed with his Christian faith, he's exposing Hollywood's darkest truths. In just 20 minutes, his bold testimony shakes the industry and dares others to speak up.
This whole thing, from Weinstein to all what's happening in Hollywood, is about an abuse of power.
Terry Crews had it all. Blockbuster roles, ad deals, $1 million smile, and the kind of energy that lit up every screen. From White Chicks to Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he became one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces. But behind the laughter and flexing muscles was a man unraveling. In multiple interviews, including with GQ and CBN, Terry confessed to battling a secret that haunted him for decades.
And let me tell you, the people I'm going against are very big, very powerful, but the whole thing is David versus Goliath. And guess who won that one?
Sexual addiction. It started young, grew in silence, and followed him even after fame. He thought success would heal him. Instead, it only made the mask heavier.
Sexual assault is a crime. It is a crime. You cannot violate a person's personal boundary.
I had everything, and I still felt worthless, he said in a candid YouTube testimony. His addiction nearly destroyed his marriage, his sense of self, his soul. Hollywood rewarded the image, but never cared about the man. And when the camera stopped rolling, Terry was left alone with his guilt.
This past year, we have seen powerful men in Hollywood and elsewhere finally held accountable for harassment and assault.
He called it a soul wound, a hole nothing in the industry could fill. So how does a man who seems to have everything, money, power, influence, reach a point of complete emotional collapse? What was the turning point that made Terry stop pretending? That's when his story changes, because instead of hiding deeper, he reached upward for something real, something eternal. And what he found would flip his entire world upside down.
I reached my hand out and he takes his right hand and under mine and immediately squeezes, grabs my genitals and I jump back like, hey, whoa.
Terry Crews hit rock bottom, not in public, but in silence. He had just confessed his addiction to his wife, Rebecca. Her reaction wasn't anger, it was heartbreak. She walked away. And in that moment, Terry realized something terrifying. He had become the very man he never wanted to be. I was the poster child of success, and I was completely broken inside, he said in his Christian Post interview. That was the breaking point. Alone in a hotel room filled with shame, he fell to his knees. Not out of performance, not for applause, but out of desperation.
Toxic atmosphere?
First of all, I can't speak for sexism because I'm not a woman, but I can't speak on behalf of any racism comments. That was never my experience on America's Got Talent.
I cried out to God, he recalled. I said, I need help. I can't do this alone. And something shifted. For the first time in years, he didn't hear applause. He heard truth. Through scripture, prayer, and intense therapy, Terry began rebuilding, not his brand, but his soul. He read the Bible daily. He attended counseling, he opened up to mentors. It wasn't instant, it wasn't easy, but it was real. His marriage survived, his faith deepened.
And I would literally ask myself, was like, why doesn't she believe me? When the question I should have been asking is, why am I lying? You know, and I had blamed her for not believing me. That's how deep it goes. And I'm gonna tell you.
And Terry Crews, the man, not the celebrity, was finally reborn. The same man who once flexed for the cameras was now confessing to the world, my strength doesn't come from my body, it comes from God. But what happens when a man healed by truth walks back into a world built on lies? That's where Terry's next chapter begins, and where things get dangerous. Once Terry Crews began healing, he started seeing Hollywood through a new lens, and what he saw terrified him. He described the industry not as a creative sanctuary, but as a cult of silence. In interviews with Access Hollywood and Fox News, Terry revealed that once you reach a certain level of fame, you're expected to play by unspoken rules. You don't talk about abuse. You don't mention faith.
Well, I love 50 Cent. I listen to his music while I'm working out. That's the deal. Well, first of all, I proved that size doesn't matter when it comes to sexual assault.
You smile. You stay quiet. You stay useful. But Terry couldn't stay quiet anymore. He saw the cost of compromise. Actors addicted, executives drunk on power, broken marriages behind perfect red carpet photos. And underneath it all, a spiritual emptiness no success could satisfy. Hollywood is seductive, Terry said. It will offer you everything, fame, sex, money, but in return, it asks for your soul. When Terry began speaking openly about his Christian faith, things changed. Invitations slowed, offers dried up. He was labeled difficult. But the more he was pushed out, the more he leaned in to God, to truth, to freedom. There's a war going on, he said, not with guns, but with values. And most people are too afraid to fight. He began encouraging other men in Hollywood to speak openly about faith, about addiction, about pain. Few listened, most looked away, because Terry wasn't just exposing Hollywood's corruption. He was shining a light into its soul. And in an industry built on image, light is the enemy. What happened next would push Terry into even more dangerous territory, when he stopped speaking in general terms and started naming names.
Very, very powerful man who has access to studio heads. What they do affects every part of the business, from producers, writers, actors. They own finance companies.
Crews wasn't just talking about vague corruption anymore. He named names. In 2017, at the height of the Me Too movement, Terry did something almost no male actor in Hollywood had done. He publicly revealed that he had been sexually assaulted, not as a child, but as a grown man, in full view of other celebrities. The alleged assailant? A powerful Hollywood talent agent. The place? A party filled with people who looked the other way. Terry's story sent shockwaves through the industry. He expected support. What he got was silence and threats. He was warned not to speak further. Some agents refused to work with him. Directors backed off. Fellow actors privately expressed sympathy, but very few stood beside him publicly. I was told I'd ruin my career if I didn't stay quiet, Terry said during his Senate Judiciary testimony. But staying silent would have meant I was protecting the system that broke me.
I was sexually assaulted by Adam Bennett, who was the head of the motion picture department at William Morris Endeavor.
And that's when he leaned fully into his faith. He quoted scripture in interviews. He posted prayers instead of promo. He told men, especially in Hollywood, that real masculinity isn't domination, it's responsibility. He became a public advocate for survivors, a Christian voice in an industry that often mocked religion, and a living example of moral courage under fire. Did it cost him? Yes. But did it free him? Absolutely. Because Terry wasn't fighting for a movie role. He was fighting for his soul. And in doing so, he sparked a deeper mission. Not just to expose Hollywood, but to rebuild it, man by man, truth by truth. Today, Terry Crews isn't just a Hollywood actor, he's a messenger. Everywhere he goes, interviews, churches, men's conferences, his message is clear.
I get a call. Here, it's him on the line. I'm sorry. I was drunk. I wasn't myself that night. And I said, hey, man, you got to understand the depth of what you did in front of my wife. I said, man, you don't even know how close you got.
You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to be honest. He speaks openly about his past, his flaws, and how faith reshaped his understanding of manhood. The world told me real men dominate, Terry says, but Christ showed me real men serve. Real men confess, real men heal. He talks about forgiveness, especially in marriage. How his wife, Rebecca, didn't save him. God did. But her forgiveness gave him a second chance he'll never waste. Terry encourages men to face their pain, not bury it. To reject the toxic Hollywood script that says image is everything. And to embrace a new kind of strength, the kind that bends the knee in prayer, not just in performance. He's even written a best-selling memoir, Manhood, where he urges readers to stop pretending and start transforming, not through self-help tricks, but through truth, accountability, and faith. And while some still mock him, call him soft or preachy, he doesn't flinch, because Terry Crews is no longer acting. He's living proof that faith can rebuild what fame tried to destroy. In the end, Terry Crews didn't just survive Hollywood, he transcended it.
As soon as they were made aware of the situation in October of this year, adding that the investigation resulted in Adam Bennett being suspended without pay and demoted from his position as head of the motion picture department.
He stood in front of cameras, courts, and critics and declared one thing without shame: Jesus saved my life. Not a branding tactic, not a viral moment, just truth. For a man who once hid behind muscles and comedy, this was the ultimate act of strength: to be vulnerable, to be honest, and to be unashamed of his faith. He knows he'll never be the industry favorite again, but he also knows this: his soul isn't for sale. In a place built on image, Terry Crews chose identity. In a culture driven by silence, he chose scripture. And now, he's not just telling his story, he's living it out loud. Because if truth costs him everything, then it's still the best deal he's ever made. Terry Crews chose faith over fame and exposed a truth few dare to face. What do you think? Can faith survive in the heart of Hollywood? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that challenge the system and inspire the soul.